Welcome to the Magic and Miracles podcast, where we share and explore profound stories that bring science and spiritual together in the most illuminating and unexpected ways. A miracle is defined as something outside the realm of what you believe is possible for you. These stories will lift and enlighten, showing you that anything is possible. I am your host, Nicole Majik. Join me as we dive into real-life extraordinary stories that will captivate your curiosity, shift your mindset, and bring healing to your soul. From real-life angels to the strange and paranormal, get ready to embark on a new, inspiring journey with each episode that prove magic and miracles happen every day. All right, welcome everyone. I have a very special guest with an interesting and scary story. So let's welcome Sarah Lauren. She is an author who passionately pursues total wellness. Her debut as a writer is a book, Alchemizing Exploitation, which details her experiences with sexual exploitation and her journey of reclamation. Having worked as a freelance writer, Sarah is taking her career to the next level by telling the authentic story of becoming whole. Her depth and unique perspective offers support to others who have experienced abuse at the hands of family members. So this is a really special, really unique, and very serious of a topic. So if you are ready to dive in with me, welcome, Sarah. It's so great to have you because the awareness that you bring, I'm super excited to help you get your story out there so you can help other people in the same situation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just dive right on in. How did this happen? Tell me your story. Tell the world.
It started when I was adopted at age 5, and I never let go that desire to find my biological parents. I always held on to that. So when I was 18, I had the power to find them, and I did find my mother, and I reconnected with her. All I knew was that she was too sick to take care of me. But when I met her, when I was 18, we kind of bonded right away. And it was everything I'd hoped for, my long lost mother. And she was fun, and I could tell her anything, and she would talk to me about anything. She, I grew up in a very religious home. So I was very sheltered. And she would talk about all kinds of things, like even her experience with selling her body in New York. And now I understand that was the start of the grooming process. So after about a year of getting to know her and spending a lot of time with her with no boundaries, she introduced substances to me. So I didn't really know what drugs were. And then she offered me methamphetamine, and she demonstrated how to smoke it and then pass it to me. And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "It'll make you feel good. Try it." And so I did. And then I lost track of time and reality. And then days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. And I don't remember exactly who, how, or anything like that, or what happened, but I do remember at one point finding myself in a studio apartment in San Francisco in the avenues. And I was inside of this studio apartment with a man and a woman who were asleep on the bed. And the door was boarded shut with nails from the inside. So I had a hard time getting out. And I eventually did get out. And this is from the time I took the drugs to however many months later at this moment. I have no recollection. I'm sure at some point I could recall those memories, but I remember getting out and I called my sister. I had my phone with me. I called my sister, who I was raised with, and she helped me get into a safe house for women leaving their traffickers.
Oh my goodness. So this, in that couple of minutes, you just described like so many things, right? So first of all, your own mother introduces you to the drugs that are preparing you to be trafficked. So the ability to get you to do whatever, right? What were some of the things, if you don't mind me asking, when your own mom is handing drugs over to you and you're not really sure what's happening, can you remember back now from, looking back, not necessarily in that moment because you're there, you would trust your mom.
Mhm.
So there's kind of that override that might have happened in that moment, but can you think back and what was your intuition really telling you?
That's tough. So that's tough, but a couple things with this story. There's a statistic I want to mention. There's currently worldwide, this number is underreported, but currently, what's public record, there's 42 million sex workers in the world right now. And 75% of those workers are between the ages of 13 and 25. So we know that the human mind isn't fully developed until the age of 25. So there's the question of when can you fully tune into your intuition? At what age do you have the power to know, really? That one's kind of a challenging one. But I will tell you that my ego felt good being with her because I was young and I wanted to have fun. And so she kind of painted this fun picture of my parents were not fun and they were suppressing me and that was mean. And so I should be with her and I should have fun and be allowed to do whatever I wanted to do. So
Right.
that kind of opened me up and made me want to participate in what she was doing.
Gotcha. And then, waking up those months later in this room was almost like it's being boarded up from the inside. So you're able to escape, even though it took some effort, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was like almost like a divine appointment of you woke up and those people were still knocked out with whatever they were doing, and you're able to get out and then get to a safe house. Can you describe like the different range of emotions that when you wake up and you're in this strange place and then you realize it's boarded up and then you have to get out and you know you don't know if these people are going to wake up in the middle of that or what's going to happen to you, and then or what's even on the other side of that door. Like, those are the things that I'm thinking of. If oh my goodness, and just like the adrenaline that must have been pumping through. What were your thoughts and your feelings during that time, or were you just so fight or flight that it was just an automatic response?
I remember sheer terror. I realized I was in hell and I was confused because I didn't know how I got there. But I somehow got myself to hell. So um yeah, sheer terror and then just numb. And it's interesting how the effect is almost like an amnesia. I felt like well, I didn't remember, you know, so much of like what happened. And it's interesting how you get into this amnesic state, and then what you don't remember is stored in your cells, in your memory, and it becomes implicit memory. And now I've got this invisible force directing my behavior for
Yes.
many years to come. And not understanding that allowed me to go for many years kind of on autopilot. Because I think we need some of this knowledge to have the power to kind of make the adjustments needed to heal and become whole. I didn't know how to do that at the time.
So what happened next after you escaped? You got to the safe house. It's not over.
Yeah, I was there. It was an 18-month program, and I was there. I lasted 6 months. And then I broke into a rage and I ran. I found work in the adult entertainment industry, and I got on an airplane and I went and did that. So it started a cycle of about a decade of getting stationary and trying to heal or hide, and then rage, and then running, and then back to it over and over and over again.
And it's interesting that the cycle that you mentioned, because people don't realize that this is what people do all the time in so many different instances. I mean, yours is an extreme situation, but we do this. We as humans will do this over and over again in that cycle of trying to break a behavior because there's a belief that's ingrained in there, and then cellular memory that carries out the behavior from that belief. So a lot of times, and I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today, of that behavior that keeps happening over and over and over again, and people, they want to break out of something, so they want something different in their life, and that maybe they don't know how yet, so they kind of stick around in it because they're not really sure exactly how to do that. And then they get sick of it, so they continue the cycle, and then something else happens and they're like, oh, I want to change this. And then there becomes this other phase of they want the change, but now the trade-off, because then it's going to become work. So maybe the work isn't worth the trade-off because they're not sure that they can make it to the other side. So then they continue on in this behavior until something else happens. And it's almost like these little notches get tweaked, where at some point it becomes a breaking point where you say, okay, I'm actually ready for this. Even though I may have told myself I think I'm ready for it, I wasn't really ready for it for one reason or another. And there's no judgment, because it's the human psyche. So what did it take for you to get to that place of, those cycles over and over, and then finally being like, I'm snapping out of this?
Well, it took having children of my own. And the first step I would say I took towards healing and breaking that pattern, breaking that cycle, and moving towards freedom was surrender. So there was something that was on autopilot within me, and I couldn't identify what it was, but it was something. Now I recognize that as ego. And so I had to surrender that part. I said, okay, this part, higher power, you can have it. And it's interesting how powerful making a decision is. It's like once you make the decision, you don't really have to know how it's going to work out. It always just does. And being on the other side of it now, I can see like I have that power. My decisions, my choices are that powerful. I can create freedom. I can create slavery. And it starts with my thoughts and my decisions. And that, it took a couple of years of living differently and cultivating awareness in many things to really experience that freedom. But now I can direct my thoughts and share my story. And I think sharing your story, storytelling, is that final stage of healing, because you have to give away what you were given to fully receive it.
I love that you said that. And there's a bunch of things that you mentioned in there that are super important, is that recognizing that, as humans, we have this ego, and surrendering to God, the universe, however you want to put it, just getting into that place of surrender is really that point where you're open to receive the wisdom to move forward, no matter what, no matter if you know how or what or any of that, be making that decision, like you said. And that's a commitment to the self. And what I've noticed in my work, my own experiences, and also working with clients, is that when we make that commitment to ourselves, then we get tested by the universe, because it's almost like, okay, is this what you really want? And are you committed to yourself? And it's almost like a small series of tests will come forward to see, what are you really committed to? So can you talk to that, and what might have happened with you once you made that commitment to yourself? What were some of the challenges or tests that you faced to kind of solidify, I don't want to say prove, to solidify that commitment to yourself and keep that momentum going forward in supporting yourself?
Well, it's been several years. So one of the biggest things for me that was a challenge was how I supported myself and my family financially. So, deciding to just go get a mundane job and do it every day was difficult, because I'd had very different experiences that way. Um, but I did it, and it just gets easier over time. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge. I think also dating can be a huge trigger, and I still have not figured that out, which is okay. Because if that's meant to happen, then it'll happen. But I think it's important for somebody that has kind of been enslaved, and even in their thoughts, even not in the way I'm talking about, but in other ways, to really find that wholeness within themselves. So, and that goes into like the 12th law of the universal law of gender, and balancing your masculine and your feminine energy. But let's see. So you're talking about how I'm tested. Okay. This year has been a lot of tests, because I wrote this book. I decided to write the book, I think in January or February. I started writing it. I was done with it, finished writing the first draft in June. And I kind of kept putting it off and putting it off to bring it to completion and to publish it because I wanted to hide. I didn't want to, I like being, comfortable, tucked away where nobody knows me and not having to show the world who I am and tell my story. That's comfortable. So I think most recently, my biggest challenge has been deciding to come forward.
And that's a big one for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Visibility is tied to a certain level of vulnerability as well as authenticity. And when there's not a full alignment between those things, you feel challenged within that, right? Am I going to be visible? Am I afraid of judgment? So there's a lot of fears that rise up to the surface to be acknowledged in that. So, and that is huge because especially with your story, there's a lot of people out there who live in denial that this even exists.
Yeah, what's interesting is the top 3 categories for traffickers are employers, family members, and intimate partners. This issue is way more widespread than we think, and it's in our backyard. Like literally, it could be a neighbor on your block, and you would never know. So, and I don't know why I haven't heard other people come forward and talk about it. Probably something to do with the shame around it, but I feel like it's a needed conversation because I know there are so many that have similar stories and they just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right because I remember just having a conversation with a friend of mine years ago, and it was getting close to Mother's Day, so that's why we were talking about Mother's Day. And she was telling me the story about how she was having a Mother's Day brunch or something. So there were a bunch of people around, and Mother's Day is supposed to be your day, the focusing and having fun, and her husband and her daughter were there, and the daughter was asking about having like a lollipop or something like that because somebody wanted to give her a lollipop, and the mom had said no because they hadn't eaten yet. It was early and it was against the rules, the family rules, right? And so obviously we want to go against the family rules because following family rules are boring, right? And not fun. You had mentioned that in your story, like my family wasn't fun. So this woman kept trying to get her to have this lollipop and all of that. And there was this guy that was situated in another spot, very strategically reading the paper or whatever. And there was this enticement to continue with this lollipop thing. And then my friend had like I think an intuitive hit of, okay, we need to get my daughter away from these people and all of this stuff. So she had said, she got a little stern about it and said, I've asked you not to, do this. This isn't what I want. And she's not allowed to have this. And she went to go tell somebody, bring it to the next level, I guess. She went to go tell somebody that, to have this person stop communicating with her daughter. And she did notice that there was some kind of eye communication between the woman and the guy reading the paper. And then when there was some kind of like something that ensued, and she went to go follow those people, and they just kind of disappeared. There was like, they went down some hallway and then literally they were disappeared. And to her, she was thinking that that was a possible case of an attempt to snag her daughter. And who's to say it wasn't? It was definitely fishy. And it was at a place where it was a public place at a hotel that was having a Mother's Day brunch during a time where there's distractions because there's so many people getting together that haven't seen each other, and it only takes, a matter of seconds for a child that small, maybe 2 years old or something, to wander in the direction of somebody who's ready and has the capability of snatching that kid up and taking off and just disappearing somehow. So what else can you say around, this is happening more often than we think. It's happening with people that are close or get close to you or someone else. And what might be some signs to look for, because there is that grooming process in some cases versus an actual kidnapping.
Yeah, so I think personally, I felt obligated to come forward with a message like this because if not, I would be engaging in passivity. And I think that's a really big problem in our society right now is look at popular games like Roblox and how the family unit is set up, especially in the United States right now. You've got parents that are really busy and welcome the distraction for their kids to be on a video game or something, right? If both parents are still together in the household, a lot of times you have a single parent who's raising a kid or kids. And it's so easy to say, okay, here's this game that you can play. And I provide examples in my books of studies where people are trafficked through like a Roblox game. Children are trafficked because they can be for weeks on this game talking to strangers and not the parent, if they are not watching what their kid is doing, not even know, you know, they're having a conversation with a stranger, and all it takes is a child getting angry at their parent and all of a sudden talking to the stranger about it and getting convinced to leave the house and meet them. And that does happen. So I think just generally being aware of not just what other people are doing, but mostly what am I doing as a parent? That I think goes a long way with preventing, because in this age that we live in, AI is a thing. And we've got to learn how to integrate with our own intelligence with the rise of AI and not let it overtake us, because that is surrendering our sovereignty. And we have to be able to protect ourselves with awareness and our families and our children.
Absolutely. I'm actually really glad that you brought up the whole AI thing, because there are all these apps out there for, generating these AI things that look super cool and all kinds of stuff. And I do want to put this out there because this just happened to me because, I was kind of sitting around doing nothing, just relaxing. And I was like, oh, let me try this AI picture generator of me and my friend. And so I plugged in a photo of me and one of my girlfriends just sitting in, I think we might have been sitting at in a breakfast booth or something like that. And it generated a few pictures that were kind of like a sequential order of pictures. But the last picture was like a 4-picture square. And the first picture was kind of like the enhanced version of the exact same picture. And then it kind of moved into, morphing our faces a little bit more like anime kind of thing. And then the next one was like the next level of it. The last picture had nothing to do with the photo I put in there at all. It was literally my friend in a very sexual position in front of like a computer or whatever. And I was like, what? So I sent it to her and I said, yeah, I don't know what's going on with AI stuff, but I'm kind of pissed off because kids are using this stuff. This is an app that kids would be using. And why are we sexualizing something that is very innocent? So it kind of got me into that space of really thinking about how dangerous AI can be with some of these photo generating pictures, especially when it comes to children. So I don't know. Figured I'd mention that out there because food for thought, people. There's a lot of different things that are out there, and this isn't meant to, rise up any fear or anything like that. It's just be cautious, notice red flags, and communicate with your kids and other adults. Sarah, it's been pretty awesome having you on here, and I know that there's so much more depth we could go into. Is there anything else that you want to mention about your story or about awareness or anything at all?
Mm. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to bringing me on here and be able to talk about it. And I think just taking responsibility for yourself and your thoughts and your life, and creating from a place of power is so important. Um, and it helps break that cycle, not just in yourself if you've been through something like this, but in society at large. And I think that's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, and that's spectacular that you're doing this because people need to hear your story. So if other people want to reach out to you so that you can tell your story on their platform, their podcast, their show, or even at their event, how can they reach you?
You can go to my website at iamsarahlauren.com and contact me from there.
All right, everyone. And that's going to be in the description. So if you want to contact Sarah, highly recommend that you do so, and she can speak at your event or get the word out on your podcast. Help her get the awareness out because all of us need that to happen because we are one energy, and protecting other people is the right thing to do. And we do that through awareness. It's always through awareness is the first step in anything. So acknowledging that this exists and being aware of it, and then being able to make people understand something about it by showing the stories and knowing what to look for. That's where it all comes together, and doing it without from not a fearful place, right? This isn't about generating fear. It's about creating empowerment and being able to understand and know what to do and be that power source. So I want to say thank you, Sarah, for having the courage and being empowered enough and having the vulnerability to share your story from that courageous space. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. So we will see you next time on Magic and Miracles, and have a spectacular day.
Thank you for joining us for the Magic and Miracles podcast, where everyday folks like you share their life-changing stories. The world wants to hear your extraordinary story, so is it about time you tell it? You might just end up being someone else's miracle waiting to happen. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please submit your application for consideration. If you would like to nominate a guest or submit a personal story to be read on the show, please contact us via email. In the meantime, enjoy the journey. You never know when you will experience a miracle that will change your life forever, or if you will become someone else's real-life angel. Goodbye for now, and see you on the next episode of Magic and Miracles, the podcast with wings.